Okay, Duane, you refer to the mantras hu, and others. You refer to them as taplining noises. What I find is that this could infuriate the users of these sounds or mantras and perhaps seal their ears to the new sound and the message of the new presentation, because there's some sort of belittled, and then they'll take a stand in defense of what they are doing. So what I want to ask is, does the new presentation intend to build a bridge to enable people cross over, people from some of these parts where they use these sounds? Could we build some bridges for them to cross over in a gentle manner, or maybe we don't care what is their fate, or we don't care what they think? What's your take on this, then?
I'm assuming that you remember when Elvis Presley or the Beatles came onto the scene.
And I don't know.
Okay, well, you were around, and in that time, that bothered a lot of people. That bothered a lot of the singers and the professional people, you see? Because now all of a sudden, they got all the attention. And so, it's not a put down. It's just telling it like it is. In other words, we're letting people know that, the new you is, finally to the real universes. And even, again, what Paul referred to, these people didn't recognize this. So what became established was, and through agreement, was the control of that consciousness with that membership. There was an agreement there to allow Joni to come in and take over, and this is what they don't see. So actually their infuriation, just like, or their botherment or whatever it is, just like the people that, are upset with the government or whatever, through that, they're going to decide to, figure this out or not. But if they want to stay stuck with their attitudes, that's their choice. But I'm simply making a statement, and that is that the old ways don't work anymore, because these people have agreed to reptilian Joni, and what they're saying is that they want their personal life, and they don't want to move on further and take the risk to see more, because they've got their comfort zone already established. So there's many ways to look at it. But the idea here is that, again, it's just like chemtrails in the sky. This is what is really occurring, and whether people accept it or not, or they become upset by the fact that, oh no, those are American planes and they're on our side, etc. Well, you can have any attitude you want, but the reality is that we have evidence that, and the people experiencing it have evidence that the hue and all these other things, they get taplined, and they get subjected to the reptilians, where the new you, they don't. So that's the reality to look at, not necessarily all the personal attitudes that people have. So, just like growing up, and parents having to deal with their children and teenagers, they've got all of these different attitudes. Well, does that make sense when actually, for the most part, the parent is there to guide the child to eventually learn how to take care of themselves? And so that's what we're doing with the new you. We're showing people how to take care of themselves so they don't have to be dependent upon an organization or a system or what have you. And that upsets them because they want their personal life. You see, that really comes first. That is hidden, Charles. So what you see on the outer with their attitudes, well, they've got to learn to face their attitudes and get beyond them if they want freedom. But they're thinking that just because they look to their authority or their membership, that they have some kind of freedom or they have something, or that there's competition here. There is no competition here. There should be no attitudes. But again, the attitudes are generated from their side. We're simply telling them, hey, you want to free yourself from all this old nonsense. This is the way to do it. This is the next step. But again, you have to be the risk taker to see that. And leaving that comfort zone, that personal comfort zone with all that, with all those attitudes and drama and everything else, because of the huge emotional attachment that they all agree to, well, that's a whole lot. And I've seen the best fall back. And even with all the experiences from the real side, from Rebusar and the boys, they still step back because they don't see what's real. So again, those are things created on their side. We're referencing what real freedom is. And we have many recordings of individuals that see what is really taking place on the real side. So again, but it's up to each person. So again, it's in their minds, they're thinking there's a competition, you might say. In other words, it's us against them. Well, that's what they've created in their mind. I don't see it that way. We're providing something that will show them how to release themselves from their own restrictions, but actually they're afraid to let go of their restrictions, so they'd rather stay in the fear belt. It's really them, isn't it?
Okay, then I understand. My concern is that uh, we may have something like the no sound, which is very direct with the whole of life. Yeah, that is a fact. But we sort of denigrate these other sounds. You make them just to understand that they are babbling. They are producing some kind of discordant noises and all the like. So it pisses people off, and whatever nice, whatever very beneficial thing you want to tell them for their own well-being, their ears are already sealed because of maybe the way they are approached. That's just my concern, because we want many more people to know about the new sound and to about what they are doing in a gentle way. You see, so I don't know whether this approach is correct.
Charles, it's like anything. So I could give a lot of examples, but the bottom line is that there's only so much time to figure this out until the person's lifetime is done. So all they have to do is take the time to sincerely explore, and they will see the difference. Is there a difference between heavy metal music and symphonic music? There is a difference, isn't it? Yeah, and people that listen to, symphonic music or classical music will say, they don't want to hear heavy metal music, do they? Actually it disrupts them, doesn't it? It bothers them. Yeah, so if your neighbor's playing heavy metal music and you don't like it, okay, it bothers you. So what do? Call the police or something like that. So yeah, you have an attitude about that. So everybody has their attitudes. So what you're basically implying is that we should provide some kind of gentle therapy for these people that want to hang on to what they've always known. Now, Paul brought it out in a particular way. Again, it was the elementary stages where he basically complied with the religions, the spiritual paths, the transcendentals, and the God idea. He babied people along. But now, because of how extreme things have gotten, especially in the created world here on this earth, don't have time to baby people along. They got to step up or not. So it's just like all of a sudden you got on the bus to go to boot camp, and in those 13 weeks or whatever it takes, they're gonna knock all that nonsense out of you, and this is what it is. So this is the risk taker position, and so you have to see a bigger picture with it. But if again, if you're simply utilizing different attitudes with emotional ingredients to them, then you're just going to stay in that area, just like what you see out there in the news and the political system, etc. The personal consciousness, for the most part, again, people bring their personal self in. When I use the sun as an example, there's the gentle side of it. Who refers to that? But no, they want to, for the most part, they want to refer to how I'm implying, because again, they want to be right. That's really what it is, Charles. And what I'm presenting is not about being right. It's like the sun shining. It's about you recognize it or not. It is a recognition now. But they want to be right with what they have, and that's fine. So they shouldn't be bothered by what I'm saying, because I see people have attitudes about the Nupresentation all the time. Fine. They have the same attitudes. I'm not here to figure that out. I just keep presenting it. It's like the sun shining again. You can say whatever you want to the sun. You can hate the sun. But does it care? No, it just keeps shining. So we are here to shine. I am here to reference. That's my adventure, right or wrong. But these people want to be right. They are emotionally attached to their systems, which is fine. But I'm just giving another view, and that is that you can be attached to your system, your idea, your masters, your gods, whatever. That's fine. I'm not telling people not to do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm giving them a comparison. And if they don't want the comparison because they want to be right, just like the old idea, our God is bigger than your God. You see? And so we're going to destroy you to prove that. You see what that leads to? Well, again, people are going to be upset. They were, most of the world was upset with Paul here. They were all upset, the Vatican and everything. They held the tiger's thing up and said, we're going to destroy this. We're going to burn these books, whatever. Okay? No one is to read this, etc. You don't think they were upset? Of course. That's why they got rid of them. So what is the fine line? Do we just baby people to where they stay passive and they don't take the risk? No, you have to take the risk. It's like climbing up a cliff and then you jump off into the darkness to see where you land. And that's what it is. There's no middle ground. You do it or you don't, Charles. You make a decision every day. You decide to go to work or not. There's no middle ground. It's not about maybe. You do it or you don't, right? Well, that's the Nupresentation. You take the risk or you don't. And actually, we're doing the world a favor by them being upset. We bother everybody. By the very fact that we bother everybody, they have the privilege to see what we're doing. And they've got to be bothered. We're all bothered. It's like a teenager that finally has to get out and get its own job, get their own job and support themselves. That really bothers them because they were raised by their parents and taken care of all that time, and now they have to do it for themselves. Well, there is a point there where they're bothered, but eventually as they get through it, they're okay. And then they stand real, and eventually, there's a good movie, Officer and the Gentleman. The individual went through the same thing, and eventually he realized that, oh, okay, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do my part. And that's really what it is. So these people actually are being nursed by these systems, and we're kind of rattling their cages by the very fact that we are the real light here, and simply showing them how trapped they are. But until they take the risk, they want their emotional trap, but they don't see that. They don't objectively see that. So where is the middle ground? You can figure that out. I'm presenting what I am, and I know it bothers people, and I see that as a good thing. because that's a wake up, is what it is. That's the real wake up. Just like everything that's happening in the world, all this virus nonsense and everything else that's taking place and everything that's going on in the world, this is a wake up for people. Otherwise, they stay asleep and they keep reincarnating. They have to be bothered, Charles, to wake up. Just like your mother would wake you up and say, hey, you're going to be late for school if you don't get up. But you wanted to keep sleeping, didn't you? But eventually you got up and you did it for yourself. So it did work, didn't it? To be bothered.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
And that's all of us. We have to do that constantly. Yes, it's very real. So the personal self is always looking for the comfort zone. Yes, we get relief at times, like working during the day and you come home and you rest. And you don't want to be bothered by the neighbors or what else is going on, or your wife comes and tells you such and such or whatever, or our son did this or he's in jail or whatever. You don't want to be bothered by it, but you got to deal with it, don't you? But through all that, eventually you gain more experience to have a better view. And it is through all that being bothered that did it, didn't it? Not being comfortable. So do we need old wisdom, or do we need to be bothered?
Yeah, but the problem is, would they even know that they are being bothered?
Well, that's part of the wake up too. So this is how life is. There is no this or that that's going to tell you what it is. You got to figure it out. You got to decide to figure it out. And as you do, it becomes more and more and more and more. This is how life is. There is no plan. See, that's the old idea. God has a plan for you. Well, people are living God's plan by agreeing to their own restrictions and staying unaware. That is God's plan. You see? In the real universes, what they all is, there are no plans. It's endless. There's no plan.
Okay.